Welcome to episode 3 of our Mighty Morphin Power Rangers podcast. In this episode, we will talk about Tommy, some cast members who passed away well before their time, and also the future for the Power Rangers franchise and what it holds. Okay, Tommy. For those of you who don't know, Tommy was introduced halfway through the first season. Initially, he was a villain, but then he became a ranger. Matt, take it away.
Well, let's see. Tommy was first brought to the show as Rita's evil Green Ranger. He was a normal teenager. He started off as a new student at the high school, and I guess maybe he displayed his karate skills a little bit. And Rita, watching from a distance, thought something like, "This will be my new Green Ranger," and she had the, Green Ranger coin. So, at the time, what we thought there were only going to be 5 Rangers, it turned out there was a 6 power coin. But Zordon did not have it. Rita had it. It was just a matter of her choosing who she was going to give it to. So impressed by what she saw, as Tommy was, displaying his, fighting skills and stuff like that, or, his martial arts. She probably liked what she saw and she gave it to him. So, of course, I believe she also must have casted an evil spell on him. So, therefore, the Green Ranger powers were being used for evil instead of good. So, it took about 5 episodes for the Power Rangers to kind of get him out of that spell. So after that happened, he became Zordon's Green Ranger, and he was no longer working under Rita's spell. So the Green Ranger powers did pretty good for a while, but it turned out later on in season 1, we're pretty much in the middle of season 1, it turned out that Rita had a green candle, and if she lit it up, then the Green Ranger powers would disappear as the candle would melt away. So pretty much when the candle melts, the Green Ranger powers melt with it, I guess you could say. So the candle was pretty much almost burnt out, and in order to, keep anything else bad happening, Tommy had to give up the Green Ranger power coin, so therefore he gave it to Jason, leader at the time, to hold on to, so Rita couldn't get her hands on any more power or anything of the sort. So after that, I guess that pretty much was when Tommy became the center of the popularity for the show. I think it had a lot to do with the storyline that involved Kimberly and Tommy, being a couple. Because on the episode that he lost his powers, he ended up asking Kimberly out on on a date to a dance. I guess it was held within the school, and she accepted, and then they gave each other a kiss, but nothing too romantic. It was low key, and so that was pretty much a important moment within Power Rangers history that I can remember very strongly. So they pretty much brought Tommy back within season 2, like I guess right at the beginning, and they brought him back as the White Ranger, and they automatically made him the new leader of the Rangers, which I had some issues accepting that at the time, because I thought, well, Jason's been the leader this whole time. Why should they change that? But then later on, they had to find 3 new Rangers because Jason, Zach, and Trini ended up leaving the show. So I guess it only made sense that Tommy as the White Ranger would be their new leader. Though I felt they should have at least considered maybe making Billy the new leader of the Power Rangers, due to the fact that he was there since day 1. But I guess they, producers, people working with the show, wanted to capitalize on Tommy's fame and popularity, so therefore it makes a little sense, since his fame and popularity was, blowing real big at the time. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. I mean, I absolutely agree with that. I think that Billy would have been great choice for the leader. But like you said, and for those of you who didn't watch the show from the beginning, it's hard to imagine now, even if you were to go back and watch them in reruns, the kind of impact that Tommy had when he was introduced to the show. Um, his character, when he was introduced halfway through the first season, was pretty dynamic for a number of reasons. The character was cool because he was he had a very strong personality. He was a villain who then became good, but then also he kind of had this aura about him. He had like this rock star kind of like hair, and it turns out that Rita Repulsa wasn't the only woman who was smitten with him.
um, I of course we all know Kimberly was, but
Yeah.
I believe they also capitalized like on his fame and popularity, um, because he may have had a number of female fans out there, like for example, like the moms of the kids who watched the show. Because growing up, I remember my mom would watch the show, and well, she wouldn't really watch it. She would just walk in at random times, and she'd be like, "So where's Tommy at? When are they gonna show him?" I'm like, "In a minute." And of course, my cousins, who were my friends growing up, I grew up with them. They watched the show as much as I did. Their mom would like, watch the show with them, and she tried to say things like, "Oh, I like Rita. She's funny," but really, we found out later she was like, "Ooh, I just love Tommy." So we were like, "Huh?" Had nothing to do with any Rita fandom. So yeah, they capitalized on his fame and popularity for many reasons. I try to look at it as in, well, he's a good martial artist, but had a lot. I feel like it had a lot more to do with that than just that. So it's safe to say he brought in the dough for the show.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of fitting that Kimberly and Tommy did end up in a quasi relationship because if Amy Jo Johnson, who played the Pink Ranger, brought in the adolescent boys, then it's pretty safe to say that Tommy as the Green Ranger and then the White Ranger brought in what the
What was really
go ahead.
what was really funny is when Kimberly left the show and was replaced by Kat. It seemed as though Tommy and Kat were starting to like each other, and I think later on maybe they became a couple, although they didn't strongly focus on that like they did when Tommy and Kimberly were the couple of the show. So some fans thought that the whole Catherine and Tommy thing didn't really work as well as the whole Tommy and Kimberly thing did.
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole what you know first. It's what you're introduced first that rings true for most fans, no matter what it is. Like for Doctor Who fans, and I know you're probably not familiar with this, but his to all you Whovians out there, um, shout out Jessica. Um, in the initial season, the reboot of Doctor Who in 2005, the Doctor had a companion named Rose Tyler, who was played by Billie Piper, and she was actually around for a couple seasons. And there was kind of a love interest, even though it was never really developed upon, kind of like what you were talking about in Power Rangers. But a lot of fans have a great affinity for Rose Tyler because it's the first companion, it's the first relationship that they saw there. So definitely, definitely. And I don't know, like you were saying, it just offered a completely new dynamic to the show, which, I mean, ratings are good. And if you can bring in the Cougars, then more power to you. But unfortunately, there were some cast members who passed away well before their time. Matt?
Well, the first one that I can think of, I didn't find out about this until about 2004, but this cast member actually passed away in 2001. Um, I was just having, I just happened to do some Wikipedia research on, certain actors within the show, because, I was like, what is this person doing now? I found out that Trini, played by Tui Trang, passed away during September of 2001. And from what I read, she and a friend, and it was either her and a few friends or her and just one friend. I can't really remember which, but they were a friend was getting married, one of her friends, so they were going somewhere to like try on bridal dresses or something of the sort. So like either on their way there or their way back, they were in a wreck, and the wreck was bad enough to cause some permanent damage, because Chewie Train passed away in that wreck while her friend was left paralyzed. And but from what I read, I think her friend went on ahead and got married as planned. And and then so but at the time I didn't hear about it when it happened. I guess because September 2001 is also when the 9/11 New York attacks had happened, and with that happening, it was so strong at the time. It was so much news coverage on that, to the point where I guess if anybody did hear about Tui Trang passing away, it was quickly taken over by the fact that America had been attacked. So because I don't remember hearing anything about it when it happened. I don't remember hearing about her passing away back in 2001. I didn't find out about it until 2004, when I was doing some research. So, and she's greatly missed by many fans and of course cast members. And there's a clip on YouTube if anybody wants to see it. I feel like all you have to do is just type in her real name, Tui Trang, and you'll see a news coverage clip of her funeral, and Amy Jo Johnson and David Yost attended her funeral, and from what I read, Amy Jo Johnson spoke at her funeral. It's pretty sad, but if any of you are interested in watching that, it should still be on YouTube. And another cast member who passed away this may have happened in 2005 or 2007, but I didn't find out about it until a year or two ago. The actor who played he wasn't a Power Ranger, but he played on the show as Ernie, the man who ran the gym and juice bar. So he was pretty much on every episode, almost, from all 3 seasons of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers up onto midway of Power Rangers Zeo.
Yeah.
So I can't really remember what he passed away of, but I miss him just as much. So hopefully we won't have to hear of any more passings and such.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, oh yes, we lost one more actually. The original Japanese actress who played as Rita Repulsa. She was also seen, on the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers here. They used the Japanese footage with Rita and her villains from the original Japanese show, but they pretty much just, the actress dubbed herself in English for the American presentation of the show. So they used the original actress for Rita up until I think midway into season 2 or 3, when they introduced Lord Zed. So they brought another actress to play as Rita at that time, and also in the movie. But with me being young at the time, I didn't really notice it. But the original actress for Rita Repulsa passed away a few years ago. I think from cancer. Like, I forget which. I forget which kind of cancer. I think it's pancreatic. So, she'll be missed as well too, even though she was a villain. I believe she was in her 60s or 70s, but she actually made her last appearance on Power Rangers when they were airing Mystic Force. Um, she came back not as Rita Repulsa, but known as the Mystic Mother with powers of good. So I forget what she did during that season, or what it was, but that was her last time on Power Rangers. So at least she left the show in a good light. She came back with powers of good. But it's sad to hear about these passings. Hopefully Power Rangers won't have to experience nothing like this anytime soon.
Yeah, absolutely. All three of the actors had definitely passed away well before their time. Toy Trang especially, because the thing that you have to remember about this show is that the characters themselves were supposed to be high schoolers, and while the people who played them were slightly older than high schoolers, they weren't much older. I mean, we're talking about late teens and early 20s. So whenever anyone passes away, particularly when it's one of the Rangers, that is just, it's very sad and certainly well before their time.
Yes, very true.
Okay, we're actually going to have one more episode. Episode 4 will go ahead and just be our conclusion for this Power Rangers podcast. And we'll talk about the future of the Power Rangers, um, what it holds for the franchise in general. So tune back in for episode 4, and we shall see you there.